Okay, whenever you're ready, Corey.
On this episode of Quality Time with Family Ties, we learn that I am living the life of a passionless ghost.
And 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody! Welcome to Quality Time with Family Ties. I am Paul Packler. I just took some Ambien, so get ready for some racist slurs.
You know, I've been taking Ambien for quite a few years, and it doesn't make me more racist than I usually am.
No, I can never tell between the two when either way.
There's no increase in my racism after I take my Ambien.
Of course.
There is, however, an increase in my writing letters. I have written notes. My eldest son has I think I may have told you this. He has an email that I sent him after I took an Ambien that he does public readings of.
Right.
Quite spectacular. So there is some truth to typing after you've taken an Ambien.
Do you think we'll ever get that? Because you've talked about this in the past on this show. That we'll get a.
I'll get Griffin to email it to me. He has it. I know he saved it somewhere.
I think that's a good thing for maybe like the midpoint of this season.
The Ambien letters. Did this episode suck my ass, huh?
Well, gang, this is the third and final episode of the 3-part Christmas series special of Steven Has a Heart Attack.
There was enough story in these 3 episodes to perhaps fill a sketch.
There's enough in these 3 episodes to fill a skit at summer camp.
That's exactly correct. During drama night at summer camp. It is so... There are scenes in this episode in particular in which absolutely nothing happens.
I want to say this is the laziest episode. We've said that at least 2 other times.
I know we have. It's quite comical, but obviously it's comical, but the episode is not. I don't remember. You know, a lot of times I'll say there were a couple of good laughs. I remember one good laugh in this episode, which takes place very, very late in the episode to me. But other than that, I didn't think anything was funny in this episode.
God damn it, gang! This episode is taking us into 1988's Christmas. Like next week is Christmas, and this is this episode that Gary David Goldberg wants to send you off to that great good night of 1988 with.
It's sort of the It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, this is the part of It's a Wonderful Life where Jimmy Stewart knocks over the bridge model that he has in the living room, and he calls Zuzu a little bitch. And like that's where we are in this whole thing. Steven becomes a dick.
He's just a dick, and really and truly for no reason. And they really miswrite this, as I will tell you from my personal experience when we get there. I just think it's so miswritten. It's like, wow, you guys did no research at all on this? It was just stupid. Anyway, we open this episode up in the waiting room of the hospital that we've been at for the last 2 episodes. Thank God the lady whose husband kicked off isn't in this episode. She was spared one of these 3 episodes.
Yeah, but we replace her with a second cast member from Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah, we do a little bit later on, don't we now?
Yeah, what's her name?
I forget.
Yeah, she dated James Dean back when she was young.
Really?
Yeah, she was a little firecracker, and she and James Dean went out.
Is dated a euphemism? Or were you thinking that, you know what I mean?
I think they had sex or something. Am I missing it?
No, that's what I thought. They have sex? They do it? Did she do James Dean?
Did you ever see the video? It just came out within the past year or whatever, where James Dean and Paul Newman are doing like an on-camera slate together, like an audition, and they're flirting with each other hardcore. It's the craziest fucking thing I've ever seen. James Dean and Paul Newman are just like going at it.
Let's feed those rumors. 50 years posthumous to them.
I'll tell you what, gang. I'll post it on social media this week. It's something to see.
I'll tell you. Like Marlon Brando and Wally Cox were roommates. You know that one?
Who's Wally Cox?
You remember Wally Cox from the Hollywood Squares, Mr. Peepers? He was this very nebbishy guy who always wore bow ties and very scrawny, like a Don Knotts kind of guy. And it was always rumored that Marlon Brando and Wally Cox were roommates.
Wow. I mean, Marlon Brando dated everybody, apparently.
Apparently, he was a slut. Yeah, women, men, animals. Maybe
James Baldwin, fucking everybody. It's awesome.
Sasheen Littlefeather, unbelievable, unbelievable. We open in the waiting room. Alex and Nick are sleeping head to head, as we know they would fall asleep given the opportunity.
Yeah, speaking of gay panic humor right there.
Oh, yeah, they wake up touching each other, so they panic for a moment. Andy's walking around asking everybody if they want to play catch. And Jennifer says something that I thought was really sort of scandalous for Family Ties. She says, all the female Keatons are better athletes than the men.
Which was pretty, based on what we've seen over 7 seasons, that is probably the case.
Absolutely true, and yet they have episodes of, Alex Keaton denial, where it's like, oh, no. Like last week when he was, watching the Tigers game with a foam finger on, screaming.
And the episode before that, the episode 1 of this arc, where he says he doesn't like sports.
Right. So make up your mind, kids. It's just awful. The writers don't know each other from week to week. They're jobbing every episode out. We have what was that? I wrote something. They were laughing about something. They're having a good time and laughing. And Elise stops and goes, oh, what am I doing? Having a good time while my husband's in surgery? Yeah, Elise, when someone's in surgery, you're supposed to keep a straight face at all times.
Good God, Elise. Like, we haven't heard of the expression gallows humor before.
Really. And then, of course, we get the biggest comedic setup in the history of Family Ties. Oh, Mom, don't you know that we want a comic relief? In Shakespeare, this is when the buffoon, the fool, the idiot, the moron, the Hosenpfeffer, the corporated comes in, and 4, 3, 2, 1, open elevator.
It's Skippy Handelman, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Corey, before we get there, Nick has this ongoing joke in this scene that never pays off.
Remind me.
Andy is still holding the ball and trying to throw it to people.
Right.
And he says, Nick, do you want to play catch? And Nick is asleep and talking in his sleep, and he says, give it to me, baby, or something, right? What does he say?
Whip it in my face, baby. Whip it at me, baby. Whip it at me, baby.
I mean, my God, it's salacious.
Didn't even register with me, not even a blip. I thought it was like, oh, what a stupid idea. I thought it was a placeholder line they never replaced.
But that's the thing. It's so weird, and it's slightly sexual. It's like, and whatever. It's like, you bet your sweet Bippy. And then they don't do it a third time. They never explain what it meant or what he was dreaming of. It just hangs there like a wet fart.
Yeah, absolutely. Just peters out after a couple of times. Once Skippy arrives, and a variety of things to cheer up the Keatons, including a used slinky for no apparent reason. Philip Baker Hall comes out and announces that the surgery is over, and everybody celebrates. And Elise ends this scene with a line that I don't know. I think I'll be thinking about probably while I'm on my deathbed. And that line is, oh, we're so happy our daddy will be with us soon.
These Keatons have some problems. Alex calls Elise mommy.
And she refers to him as our daddy will be home with us soon.
What are we doing here? What's going on?
And that fades into a fucking flashback. This was the first moment that I wanted to stick a needle in my eye. Now, I want to interrupt myself when I say stick a needle in my eye. Have you seen Killing Eve?
No, what's that?
Killing Eve was on BBC America. It was, I believe, an 8-hour arc in its first season. And it is, we have finished 2 episodes. I'd heard great things about it. It is phenomenal.
What's it about?
It's a murder. It's chasing an assassin in Europe.
Okay. Anybody in it that I would recognize?
Sandra Oh from Grey's Anatomy plays the expatriate American living in London who's fired from the Special Forces and then hired behind Special Forces back to track down this international female assassin. And now the assassin knows who's tracking her, hence the name Killing Eve. She's Eve. Sandra Oh is Eve. So now you have an international assassin trying to kill the woman who's been hired to kill her.
And as an audience member, you're kind of cheering for both.
Kind of cheering for both, but it's written by, I don't know if you saw on Amazon, a wonderful half-hour series called Fleabag.
No.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge is the actress/writer who stars in it and wrote it. And she also wrote this adaptation of a novel, of a mystery novel, Killing Eve. So it's got a lot of humor in it too. And the relationships are really complex and interesting.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
So if you're streaming it, you stream it on, right now it's on AMC streaming, but I think that it's only good for another 30 days on AMC. And then it's obviously, because it's expiring on AMC, it must be going to Netflix or Hulu or Amazon in 30 days, something else.
Okay,
so,
yeah, I'll check it out.
Just terrific, and you'll understand my putting a needle in your eye. That's how the assassin kills everybody. She sticks a needle.
So it's not a spoiler. No spoiler.
No, it happens. It happens the very first murder. We see every murder, and each one is
gross.
But boy, I'll tell you, we go right into this flashback, and a needle in the eye would have been pleasurable, other than going into the kitchen. And this was the scene in which absolutely nothing happened.
Holy shit, you guys. So, first of all, this is the first flashback in 3 episodes of this storyline. Like, I was like, in my mind, as we went through this show, I was like, as soon as they start doing flashbacks or fictional flashbacks, the show's in trouble. And luckily, it took until the 3rd episode to do it.
Right, and let's make it clear, this is a fictional flashback. This isn't a clip from anything we've seen. These are new flashbacks.
Yeah, yeah. And so in that case, it's a slightly, I don't know, slightly better or slightly worse that they made up fictional flashbacks as opposed to using clips.
I don't know. It's lazy. Either way, it's lazy. This way, it was just sort of lazy writing. It would have been lazy editing the other way.
Yeah. And so they do this thing where they're waiting for Elise to come back from work because they're going to see a re-showing of E.T. Like, that movie came out in 1982, but Andy's the same age as he is right now. So it's like somewhere in the near vicinity of time, there's some re-showing of E.T., and they now only have one car again.
So they spend this entire scene waiting for Mom to come home, with Stephen drinking from a jug of orange juice as the only saving grace to this nonsensical scene.
And honestly, the orange juice is just as nonsensical. He never actually drinks it. We never see him pour it.
No, he's holding it. He holds it. He holds it as a prop. I don't know why. And then Alex makes some quip to Mallory at some point. And Stephen screams at him like a fucking madman. Why do you insist upon tormenting your sister?
It's like he's calling out for all of us. For all of us, he's saying this.
Right. Why is this the first time anyone is ever asking Alex a question that could have been asked, I would say, about 127 times if this is the 127th episode?
Yeah, sometimes more than once.
Yeah. Why do you insist on tormenting your sister? It makes no sense. She's a nice person. She's talented. She's not stupid. She's lovely. I don't know what your fucking problem is.
Yeah, it's not even that she's stupid necessarily. Like, you know, she knows how the world works. She's not like a dull board that you're just constantly sitting next to. But Alex is making fun of her. Steven is yelling at them. Jennifer and Andy are just sort of caught in the crossfire. But again, this scene is about waiting for Elise to get home from work. And it seems that Steven's a little pissed that she's getting home late.
And once again, the writers are seemingly unaware that they have selected one of the very few passive choices for a scene, which is waiting.
Other than waiting for Godot, which
Yeah.
in and of itself was boring on purpose.
Right.
You don't want characters waiting.
Waiting just means that they have time on their hands and nothing's happening because nothing really can happen.
Let's say you're sitting in the writer's room right now, Corey, and the arc of this episode, this 3-part thing, is that they are waiting in a waiting room for Steven to get out of surgery to see if he lives or dies. And then they're like, you know what? We can't just have 3 episodes of these people sitting in a room waiting for him to get out. You know what and then someone raises their hand. Hey, why don't we do flashbacks in this 3rd episode? Great, Tommy, what are you thinking? And Tommy's like, what if they're waiting in the kitchen? But wait, stop. They're waiting for Elise. And Gary David Goldberg's like, cut, print, we're done.
That's it. Everybody, it's a short day. Take the rest of the afternoon off. Enjoy your families.
They were waiting in one room. Now they're waiting in another. Like, this is your opportunity. Like, the flashback should all be crazy farce scenes.
Of course. But no, they choose to wait. And then they close the scene out with, unfortunately, I don't know if you caught this, Andy's worst moment in a year and a half.
What's that?
They make a joke about churning butter, and everybody starts to laugh. And somehow or another, Brian Bonsall didn't laugh enough, and he looks off camera, and someone must have motioned for him to turn it on. So all of a sudden, he turns on the laugh jets. It's like a beat late, and there's the moment of him looking off camera and turning back and getting back into the. So he has. To me, you know, I'm always sensitive to Brian Bonsall, and it was like, and they made him look bad, and they didn't have to make him look bad, but by using this take of this, there's a moment where he looks off camera in a moment, and then sees what he's supposed to be doing, or notices that everybody else is laughing a little heartier than he is, and he turns.
You know what though? That's the writers and the director's fault, I would say. As a kid actor at this point, Brian Bonsall is really good if you give him stuff to do. But you can tell none of the adult actors, because they start singing at this point. They start singing like Stephen, what's his name, Foster.
This seems improvised, and I know it's not. And I say it seems improvised because it seems like it's a bad improv that's going nowhere.
Yeah, everyone seems uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it just goes. This whole singing thing is just stupid, and it goes nowhere. And then Elise comes in and starts singing lyrics that I just couldn't even listen to.
No, and especially you can tell Justine Bateman is very uncomfortable because she starts singing the second verse and she's like doing this horse thing. But
it just seems like it's a first draft and then never went back to it again. It's terrible. It's terrible.
It makes me feel bad when you make actors visibly uncomfortable because the writing is bad or the directing is bad. That makes me angry because you shouldn't do that.
No, they were all just counting their paychecks at this point. You know, we're making good money. Let's shut up and do whatever the hell they give us. It's so awful. We leave this scene with them singing. She'll be coming around the mountain and then leaving to go to the movies. And we come back to waiting in the hospital again. Once again, we're with Nick. Once again, he's sleeping. All of a sudden, he's awake, and we get the news that where we're told that Steven is awake, and they all run into Steven's room. First thing I got to tell you, when you wake up from cardiac, you're in a cardiac unit. Usually a CICU, a cardiac intensive care unit, is where you usually wake up post-operative, which means there are very specific rules about who can and can't come in. First of all, children not allowed.
Why is that?
They don't want to upset or infect hospitals, more infection than any other place in the entire world. You don't want to upset or bring infection into a hospital, into a very non-infectious, into a very sterile environment. They also usually only allow one guest at a time in cardiac ICU because you have some people who are in not great condition post-operative. Also, when you wake up post-operative, you have to be on a heart-lung machine for some period of time. So sometimes your throat is a little scratchy when you wake up because there was a tube when you wake up post. And I'm not saying they have to be. This isn't Marcus Welby, MD. I'm not saying they had to be totally accurate. But here's the big thing. There seems to be, when you wake up from heart surgery, your heart doesn't hurt you. Your chest hurts you.
Right, where they cut your bone.
Right. You feel as though, this is all I could say over and over again, for a week to 10 days, you feel as though you were hit by a truck, by a 16-wheeler. You felt as though you were a pedestrian and you got hit by a 16-wheeler and they saved your life. And everything hurts for about a week. And him, way he was, when he finally came home, I mean, I could get way more into this in the second act, but the way he came home, his physical, everything about it was totally wrong.
Wow. Because I thought when he came home in that final scene, I was like, oh, he's doing some acting choices that I thought were interesting, but I didn't know if it was necessarily real.
We'll get more into that, but right now we're in his room. All 8 of them are in the ICU unit. He asks, am I alive? Or am I in heaven? And for some fucking reason, Nick sticks his face in Steven's face.
And gives him a kiss on the head.
Yes, which was sweet.
Again, Nick, in this case, I don't know if this is the right time for it, but he is a very empathetic person.
Unfortunately, either he said or they had him say, hey.
Yeah.
Which ruins every moment that Nick has because he's the only real person on the stage usually. And then they make him do his Fonzie thing, and it's like, oh, that's stupid. Why are they having him do that?
I can't believe they were able to get away with him just doing it's literally Fonzie.
It is as if Gary Marshall should have sued them for copyright infringement.
That would have been amazing.
You're stolen our intellectual property.
How cool would it be if we only had to do 4 seasons of the show because Gary Marshall sued them and they had to go off the air in 1986?
Now I'm bitter that we're doing season 7. Well, this is the act break, so we should probably take one too.
Yeah, it was a very abrupt act break, and so is this one. We'll be right back. And we're back.
Yeah, it was a really abrupt act break. It was Nick sticking his face in there, saying, hey, "You're alive," and it's like, "Am I in heaven?" And then he takes one good look at Nick and goes, "Nah, guess not."
Mm-hmm.
And baboom, rim shot. We're into act 2. So we're home. We're back in the Keaton home, right?
Yes.
And Dad's walking into the house. And clearly, I'm gonna cough. Clearly the tone is weird, isn't it? Right from the get-go. It has a very funereal tone to everybody coming home.
It felt, I don't know, Corey, maybe I was just sensitive to this or something. It felt like this culture shock that no longer exists in our lives, that back in 1988, this sort of thing was so new. Like, the idea of surviving a heart attack was such a new idea, whereas, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years before this, you just died.
Right. Okay, I can accept that. Give me water.
Yeah. And so it seems that everybody in the show is acting like he's an alien from another planet. Ironic that they chose to go see E.T. in this episode, but they're treating him so strangely.
Susanna just told me I cried when I came home because I didn't think I would come home.
Oh,
that's what she said. I don't remember that at all, but then I was on a heart-lung machine for 66 minutes, which oddly enough, right, 66 minutes?
Yeah.
Oddly enough, these 3 episodes, 22 times 3, 66 minutes, the amount of time I was on a heart-lung machine.
Oh my God. So if you wanted to feel like if you didn't make it, if you watch this, it would feel like a fucking eternity.
It sort of kind of does. That's what I thought was so ironic about it. It
Yeah.
was the amount of time I was in limbo, because you're not really alive when you're on the heart lung machine. There's a machine keeping you alive. You're not alive.
You're not conscious?
No. Oh, oh, no, that's when they're toying with your heart, and they have the machine doing the work of both the heart and the lungs. So they've stopped everything from working because they've stopped your heart from working on it. But they have a machine as a sort of an artificial heart working for you during the surgery. And they try and keep you on the heart-lung machine as little time as possible, because there are still no guarantees that there isn't brain damage during that period of time.
Oh gosh, that's crazy.
There is some evidence that in some patients at some ages, given certain circumstances, that there's some deterioration of brain cells while the machine is doing the work for you, that you're not getting a total amount of oxygen to the brain that your natural heart and lungs deliver.
Wow.
So there is that. But, you know, he comes home, everyone's acting different. And here's the first thing. The thing that hurts is your chest, not your heart. I was bedridden for about 10 days. I mean, slowly you come out of it. You're walking for sure, because they get you up in the hospital within hours of consciousness walking.
Wow.
So that's the first thing they want you to do. I thought he was walking in the house way too much. I thought he should have been seated somewhere. He walking, because since the chest hurts, every step you take, you sort of hurt. So I just wanted to sit or lie down. Lying down was the best thing, but it also is extraordinarily painful, and I'm glad they didn't have him doing this. Getting up, from lying down to getting up, or sitting down to getting up, you use your chest a shocking amount of, whenever you're using your hands, you're using your chest. Right. So you want to keep this. So the one thing, and then the other thing is, they want to keep your lungs as clear as possible after you have heart surgery. And because you've been on the heart-lung machine, it's possible to develop a little fluid. And that's something that's very, very scary to them. And coughing hurts more. Well, it was coughing, sneezing, belching, farting. Any bodily function hurt. But they give you a pillow. And they tell you that it was like a heart-shaped pillow. And when you cough, you're supposed to press the pillow against your wounded chest and support your chest. And it hurts less when you cough or sneeze. So that was the other big thing, was protecting your chest at all times.
That's insane. I had no idea about that. And especially the pressure thing. That's crazy.
Oh, yeah. So, and that helped a lot. You start to learn how to do this and try and do this, if you're not near a pillow, to ttry and give yourself some support. And they do tell you, my chest has never felt the same. It definitely, I don't like anybody touching it. It feels weak to me. Mm-hmm. It's not. Clearly, it's not. It's been 15 years. But that was the only thing that was weird about it to me. And then, he claims, he says everybody's babying him. And he screams out, "I'm fine, I'm fine." And then Alex, of course, comes over, being so sensitive to him saying that he feels fine, to offer him the Chair-O-Matic 3000.
Holy shit. This is like a whole bit that they've written out.
Here we go. It is. It's almost like a whole subplot poured into one moment.
He wants to buy his dad the same chair that Mrs. Deagle had in Gremlins, where it's the chair that goes up and down stairs.
If you watch any daytime TV, you see it advertised during every Maury Povich show. If you've ever seen Maury, it's always those, because where the old folks are, trust me, I know when the old folks are watching TV. The old folks are watching TV. Stephen gets immediately irritated and screams out that he's not an invalid, and Alex finally takes the hint and leaves the room, and Elise and Stephen have a really edgy scene where, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, I'm fine." When anyone says I'm fine like that, they're not fine. And she tries to ferret out his deepest thought, and when we find out what's bugging him, it's just fucking ludicrous. What's bugging him the most is this living room is the room where it happened. this is where he had his heart attack. And that's what bugs him the most, that it's going to ruin his love for the living room.
What the fuck is that? What does that even mean?
It comes out no clearer when I explain it than when I watched it. It would ruin his heart attack, ruined his love for his living room.
It's baffling.
It's baffling, and it's so baffling that they double down on it because they know that we're going to react like this. So what do? They double down to prove to us that this living room is special by giving us a flashback of young Stephen, young Elise, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, baby Alex and baby Mallory.
This has got to be like version 6.0. This is worse than the National Lampoon's Vacation movies. Like, they have different kids literally every time they come on.
God, at least like in This Is Us, where they have like, 3 different generations of the same characters, at least they have the same actors playing the part week to week, so that if you're going to do something that's out of chronological order, I can follow it if I know who it is.
Do you watch This Is Us?
Well, I watched the first season religiously, and I loved it. I loved it. I love crying, so I found it cathartic, and it made me cry. So okay. I enjoyed it tremendously. And I have not yet watched more than a couple of episodes this season, only because I just haven't had the time to have a good cry.
Right.
I do like it though. So it's a flashback to the first time Elise and Stephen saw the house with a real estate agent.
Yes, Stephen he has a beard, which is unlike how we saw him in season 1. Right.
He's not clean shaven, and yet he has a beard sort of kind of similar to what he wears right now, except they stippled it out the gray.
Yeah, yeah. And he's also wearing my hair as a wig on top of his head.
Right. And they gave Elise what they conceived to be a young lady's wig.
Right. And Stephen's wearing some nice not bootleg. What are they called? What did kids wear in the 70s?
Where? On what part of the body?
Jeans, the pants where they had the flares at the bottom.
Oh, bell bottoms.
Bell bottoms. He's wearing those. I don't know why those never made a real big comeback.
They have for ladies, not for men.
They did briefly in the 90s.
90s? Yeah, there was some. Yeah, for the ladies, not for the men yet.
Yeah, I would wear them, but the tough thing is my legs are very short, so it's tough to get the flare at the right point.
I think Suzanne is right, and you should be wearing them.
Thank you.
I think it's really a good fashion choice on your part. And don't let anybody
steer me wrong. I'm going to get those bell bottoms.
Elise is pregnant with Jennifer, and we find out that Alex and Mallory are outside. And instead of kill me, here's my favorite line of the week that I wrote down. The actor who plays young Alex should be publicly executed. That's
oh my god! Oh my god!
Was that harsh? Was that a harsh judgment that I made?
We're blaming it on Ambien. It's fine.
I really felt that young actor, and I don't know who he is, and I don't want to know, should be publicly executed for the worst performance. I've never seen somebody acting to take what we know to be a sociopathic character and to take a child and to say, hey, little kid, come over here. Could you act as sociopathic with your baby sister as you possibly can and chase her in a perfect circle out the door, but make it look improvised, but it never did. Nothing looked organic. It was terrible. And she was taunting him. Baby Mallory. I know, I'm sorry. I got to tell this. Baby Mallory was taunting baby Alex with Watergate taunts.
Yeah, she said, Watergate, Nixon's going to prison. And I was like, oh, from your mouth to God's ears, kid.
She was giving him Watergate taunts. All I could write down is here's my problems with this show. Here's what you guys should have remembered. When you were nostalgic before we started this giant journey together, here's the things that I wrote down 3 things that you should have remembered that I did remember, and now you know.
Right.
Number 1, the problem with the show, Alex P. Keaton. The creation of Alex P. Keaton is fundamentally it's a terrible TV character that's not going to sit well over a long period of time because he's a sociopath and you want us to love your lead, and it's impossible to.
It's true.
The second thing is, this is the most heavy-handed show in television. When Gary David Goldberg wanted to make a point, he did it with iron fists, with iron gloves on. He's just heavy-handed. And in top of that, he's high-minded and overly earnest. He really thinks he's doing he thinks, you've said this before, I thought it was such a smart thing. He thinks he's Elda, and only someone who lived during the 70s and 80s would understand that. But he thinks he's Phil Donahue. He thinks he's Alan Alda. He thinks he's got women's rights and anti-war and all these high-minded liberal causes, and he does it in a heavy-handed, clumsy way that never really point.
I wish you would save that for the end of the final episode, but
I'll remember to say it again. I was just writing it down during that flashback scene, which ended with. Go ahead, you tell them.
I've blocked it out of my memory, Corey. I'll be honest. What happened?
Knock at the door. Who comes over to visit
young sexual harasser himself, one Erwin Skippy Handelman.
Baby Skippy Handelman comes over and says to baby Mallory his line, and they couldn't get the kid to say anything else or do anything else, so they wrote him this: "Va va va voom,"
and then starts again chasing her in a perfect circle.
That's it. So we have Skippy Handelman chasing Mallory Keaton.
Now, this kid is annoying, this young Skippy, because he does the, all of his R's or W's. And, people that have speech impediments, it's not like something to judge. But, there's this kid.
It's not something to judge. But if I want to quote myself, they should be publicly executed. I just wanted to reiterate that. I don't think all people with speech impediments should be publicly executed. I just think this child, Alex, and they would save if they were going to do it like with electricity, it would be a smaller electric bill. If they're going to do it with poison, then they do it like less poison. If you kill 2, it's a twofer. And I think they could have killed both of these kids publicly on television. That should have been the next Gary David Goldberg production.
I feel bad bringing this up now, but also Mallory, the girl that they have playing her, has a mush mouth, and she's fucking up all of the punchlines because you can't understand what she's saying.
You don't understand a word she says.
But I don't want her to die. I don't want you to kill them.
I don't want her to be publicly executed. She was fine. She's cute. It was, and it may not have even been Alex. It was what they put Alex in. It was the costume they put him in.
Yeah.
That wardrobe was like, they gave him like a little, pocket patch, and he was like coming out of Hogwarts.
There was a cute joke that he was like, "You're overcharging on this house, $7,000, lady." And the woman playing the realtor is the one that is Seinfeld's mom from the show Seinfeld.
Oh. That is, I know her name. It's a wonderful musical theater actress from New York by the name of June Gable. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, not June Gable, Liz Sheridan. Liz Sheridan, terrific actress, really, really wonderful. Loved her. Died relatively recently too.
Right.
We go into this back from this Skippy Handelman takes us back into the house, into the flashback, from the flashback back into the living room, with Stephen asking a really, really heavy-handed question. What kind of a life am I going to have for myself?
Like, what the he's acting like he's been through some, I don't even know what. Like he's been through a war or something.
Well, yeah. Oh, I'll take that. Like he has PTSD.
And maybe he does. It is a trauma to have a heart attack. It's a near-death experience.
I suppose. I guess. I don't know. It didn't work that way for me. And then she says, Elise says to him, "But the doctors say you're going to be just fine. Everything's going to be normal. It takes some time to adjust." And he goes, "What do they know?"
And then he talks about this guy that used to work with him at WKRP in Cincinnati or whatever, and
Pearson, the sales rep. Now, here's where I thought that was the one funny line. He was a big fan of the documentary that Steven produced. The salmon, from River King to Croquette.
That was good.
That was the one line I thought, oh, okay, that was damn funny. I enjoyed that. Seems like a PBS kind of series. The salmon, from River King to Croquette.
And it's good. It's in another show that would have actually gotten a laugh.
I know. And really what it comes down to is Nat Pearson, the sales rep from WKRP in Cincinnati, he had a heart attack once too. And what happened to Nat? Nat was a shell of his former self. He had lost weight, and he wasn't like himself any longer. Like there was some giant personality change from before the heart attack.
Yeah, he was like a veteran of the Spanish Civil War in some Hemingway short story. It was just like he comes back and he's never the same.
And Steven cries out, almost like an impassioned cry, I don't want to be a living, passionless ghost.
What the fuck does that mean?
It's the title. I just don't know. I don't know anybody who's had a heart attack who thinks they're that they've lost their passion, that you can't be passionate. Oh my God, I've ranted and raved on this broadcast, on this podcast, week after week after week. I can be passionate. I'm not afraid of having a fucking heart attack.
My God, this is your thing. This is what we brought you in for, is that you scream.
I know, with fingers crossed that I would have a heart attack on a podcast. My God, can you imagine how many hits?
We'd finally get that write-up in the AV Club.
We would go viral. We might even win a Webby Award. Can you imagine Barbara and Dylan and Brian's speech at the awards banquet, and then you sort of, Brian, out of my fucking way! It's my show. And Scott,
I'd be so in my element.
Yes, and Scott would never show up. He wouldn't even know what was going on.
Well, I mean, you have to be here for at least 75% of the episodes, so.
I'll tell you. He feels like he's a passionless ghost, and so what's the solution? They kiss.
And then it gets a little bit, because it's a very close-up of the kiss, and it gets very bow chicka wow wow.
And so we end with the classic callback line, va 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 voom.
Which I was actually fine with. I thought that was a nice callback. At least it made use of that nonsense.
I'll tell you, the callback would have worked if there wasn't a 30-year gap in when it happened the first time and when he said it the second time. If somebody said something to me that was said once to me 30 years ago, I might not recall it.
That's actually kind of brilliant. You're right. It's like he remembered that from 20 years in the past.
The first thing P.T. Handelman said to his daughter?
Oh boy. The other thing I wanted to say about this is they're treating him like in the new Marvel universe with the Incredible Hulk, is that like he can't have his heart rate go above or below a certain thing or else he changes.
That's right. We've got to keep him at one kind of stasis level here.
Was that ever like I maybe after the surgery, did you have to be calm for a while?
No.
The doctor said that the people who learned how to handle stress lived.
Oh, okay. So I was told I was supposed to learn how to handle stress.
How's that going for you?
He's alive!
I'm alive. Okay, that's all. Other than that, I'm not really so
Shit,
sure.
I can't even imagine what you were like before that. Then
can you imagine? That's right. Well, what can I tell you? It's a little bit more tightly wound. I know it's hard to believe. Hey, you know, next week I'll be in New York, Paul.
Oh my God, I totally forgot. We're gonna be hanging out.
I'll see you next week.
Well, I
Sometime.
mean, Scott's not gonna be available to do the show. Maybe we should do it live together.
Oh no, Scott! Remember, he claimed today that that school is over for him.
Right? Yeah, like his 2 children just disappear then.
His 2 children and his very pregnant wife.
What do they do? I don't even know.
What? His children? I think they go to school.
No, the 3rd child.
Oh, when do they do? I think he said, what do they do? No, when are they due? August.
Okay.
Yeah, so she's going to be nice and sweaty during the hot parts of July and August. Right, Carrie? It's going to feel really good out here in summer.
Gross.
In all honesty, it's better because really our hottest months are September, October, not August. We're okay for June and July usually.
Didn't you have like a year-long drought?
A few years, sure. But
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I think didn't we have a good rainy season this year?
No, 2 years ago we did. This year we did not. So back into the drought.
Oh, we're back to a drought again. There we go.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna wait. Let me get one of my plastic straws that I just use and then throw away.
Drought Watch 2018.
So, Corey, I'm glad you're alive. I'm not so glad Steven's alive.
No. Hopefully next week we won't ever mention this again.
Yeah, this is our final 7th episode, and I'm glad that we're done with it.
I am too. I'm very happy that we're done with it. It's bad news. But the nice thing about this is Roseanne's off TV.
That must have been the most fun writer's room to have been in for yesterday morning when they got fired.
I feel terrible. I feel terrible because I know that they hired a brand new staff because no one will work for her for more than 1 year at a time.
Right. And that was true back in the 90s too.
And generally speaking, they had to hire neophyte writers for every writer's room because they had to find, they took great spec scripts, hired guys who had no track record before. And then Bruce Helford, who's the showrunner, is ultra experienced with molding new writers. So no one, and that's the only way they could hire people is people who are desperate for a job. So I feel really bad because you got to figure there were 5 or 6 guys and gals in there who had never written before anywhere and were getting their first job, and it was on a freaking hit show. And in their minds, this can go on for years. And sorry, no.
See, honestly, you could do if you went to like a middling liberal arts school, you could write a thesis paper about the combination of racism, capitalism, and exploiting young work that isn't able to defend itself. You'd make a pretty compelling 10-page paper right there on the experience of a young writer in Hollywood working on Roseanne.
I'm impressed that ABC turned down the millions of dollars that they turned down by canceling it.
I read it was $60 million that they lost for next year.
In advertising, because as one of the top-rated shows, obviously they were charging top dollar for it, and that means and anything that they replace it with, whether it's an existing show or a new show or whatever they decide to do, is not going to nearly get the same advertising rates that Roseanne did. So it's just not something. But once again, we've never had a African American female as a programming chief of a network who made a quick and unilateral decision yesterday to fire her ass. And I'm glad she did, because as the first female African American programming chief, she would have had to answer why she didn't.
Well, she's also the same African American female chief of entertainment who hired her in the first place.
That is correct. So, and you know what you get?
Bigfooted that episode of Blackish about Colin Kaepernick. So,
have you read her Twitter feed in the past? I mean, it's been quite public.
Yeah. So ABC and she gets no points from yours truly.
Understood, but they were at least smart enough to put a morals clause in the contract so that they have the legal right to fire her.
Yeah, that's true.
You did do a social media clause saying that if you do something outrageous, we have the right to fire you. So they haven't negotiated money yet. That's the thing they're talking about today. So a lot of people do have to get paid.
Yeah, do you think everyone's going to get paid for the full season?
I think a lot of people are going to, they'll negotiate something out on some of them. They'll have to do some severance packages.
Yeah. Wow. Good for them.
Mm-hmm.
What a crazy world we live in, huh?
I just hope that, unfortunately, there's a nasty little rumor that it's possible that American Housewife could get moved to that time slot, and I'm just hoping that it doesn't. It could affect American Housewife. We're just hoping it doesn't. We don't want that time slot. We don't want to kick off a night. It's so secure on Wednesdays at 8:30. It has the Goldbergs before it. It has Modern Family after it. And kicking off a night puts a lot of pressure on a television show. And sometimes if you don't produce, the network gets a little angry at you. So I would just as soon stay right where we are on Wednesdays at 8:30. So
yeah. They what are the odds of that happening, do you think?
It's one of the possibilities. ABC was supposed, according to the trade papers, was working feverishly to figure out what to do. There's just one easy scenario, and that is they have only one show ordered on the bench, and it's the spinoff of the Goldbergs. So that what they could do is remove the Goldbergs are 8 o'clock Wednesdays. American Housewife is 8:30 Wednesday. So pulling American Housewife and putting in a Roseanne spot clears the post-Goldberg spot for the Goldberg spinoff. But the other possibility is them rearranging the schedule in some other way. There's even a rumor today of a possible Jackie and Darlene show coming down the pike.
Now, was that just the memes that all of our friends were posting, or is that an actual thing?
No, there was actually some chatter here today about Bruce Helford was talking to ABC. It's not possible for September, but perhaps for next January, where Jackie and Darlene are roommates. Some possibility of that happening. So we'll see.
That would be the craziest fucking thing. Has that ever happened before?
Yeah. Remember when Sandy Duncan had a problem with Valerie Harper had a problem with the show Valerie and either was fired or quit, and Jason Bateman became the star of the show as the kid, and it became known as the Hogan Family in the second year.
Oh shit, that's why people were making that joke about Sandy Duncan. Okay.
Exactly. They left after the first year of the Sandy Duncan show, and it became the Hogan Family the next year or something like that.
And speaking of Jason Bateman, how about that? The whole kerfuffle.
That was I think that was a real lesson to men.
Indeed.
I think it was an eye-opener to men where you guys didn't even realize that you were ganging up on a 75-year-old woman who was almost in tears, and the only one in that room who realized it was the other woman.
Yeah. You know the thing that really skeeved me out, and I think is the most telling thing in that whole, where you just read the transcript, because I don't think they ever released the full thing, but when Jessica Walters says, "I just want you to note in the article how much testosterone there is in this room," like she felt that she was already getting ganged up on before anything happened.
She was getting ganged up on by those guys, and these are guys who, generally speaking, give the impression of being decent human beings.
Just shows to go you.
And they were all running to defend somebody who they witnessed being a shit to her, and they were defending him, I think, out of a necessity to try and help him save this job because he's already lost another one.
Yeah, it's to have that focus, or to be to that's your read on the situation, is the thing that blew my mind.
And as she said, this is an actress who's 75 or older years old. She's been in the business forever. And when people are saying, "Oh, but people yell, people get passionate in the bit," but not like this. Never like this.
Yeah, for her to have that response in the moment, my God, it must have been horrific.
All I could think of is it must have been horrible. That must have been humiliating in front of everybody, in front of the whole set. Another actor dressed her down. Hey, I've worked with actors who like to give each other notes. That's not cool.
Yeah.
Not give me notes. There's a lot of executives around. They'll give me notes. I'll get it from them.
Yeah. Or that you've gotten into arguments with people and stuff like that, but never like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was a hell of a week for television talk this week.
Better than the show.
Yeah. Well, gang, thanks for joining us on this. After all of the hot takes and think pieces this week, now you got the Quality Time with Family Ties investigation into Roseanne and Arrested Development. So you're welcome. Okay, so rate and review our show on iTunes. For questions and comments, email us at qualitytimewithfamilyties@gmail.com. You can follow each of us on Twitter. I'm at Paul Packler.
I'm at Corpep, and Scott Jones, who sometimes is with us, is at Follow Jones.
And obviously at QTWFT. Don't forget to send us pictures. It's gone away a little bit, but send us pictures of you with orange juice with the hashtag OJ with QTWFT, and we'll be sure to retweet. Send it to us on Facebook because we have a page there, or Instagram. Barbara takes care of that. I don't know how Instagram works. I'm not a happy person or a person who likes taking pictures of myself. We'd like to thank our host and producer, Barbara Dillon, at Fanbase Press. Fanbase Press is a comic book publisher and an online community supporting creators and fans through daily reviews, interviews, and podcasts that span the pop culture spectrum. Fanbasepress.com. We'd like to thank Perry Adams, who beautifully performs Family Ties and our theme song Without Us. Check out her website, perryadams.com. We'd like to thank Bryant Dillon, who created our fantastic drawing and artwork as well as edits our show. Bryant is the president and co-founder of Fanbase Press. Follow him on Twitter at Comic Book Slayer. And finally, Sean Foster, Fanbase Press's graphic designer, for designing our logo. And I just want to give a shout out to Sean Foster, who I heard for the first time on Fanbase Weekly, which is the podcast that Fanbase Press hosts, where they were talking about the new film Solo, the Star Wars story, and his takes on the film were very interesting, and I agreed with a lot of them. So on that note, we'll see you next week.
La 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 la.
Bye.